Emily Gates sat trembling in the leather salon chair. Her hands, so small, so pale, clutched the protective cloth like it could shield her from what was coming. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. But her eyes were screaming. LaToya Robbins, the new maid at the Gates mansion, had just come in to tidy the room. She wasn't supposed to notice anything. She wasn't supposed to say anything. But she did. She paused beside Emily, her brow furrowed. She stepped closer, then reached gently toward Emily's long blonde hair. A second later, she gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. The hairbrush she was holding slipped through her fingers. It hit the floor with a loud, echoing clatter. Behind them, Peter Gates, billionaire tycoon and father to Emily, stood frozen. His phone fell from his hand. His face turned ghost white. He stared at his daughter like he was seeing her for the very first time, and what he saw unraveled him. Because sometimes the truth hides in plain sight, until someone dares to look closer. But let me tell you how we got here. This story will break your heart, and then it will gently, painfully, stitch it back together. With hope, with grace, with something deeper than most people dare to name. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe. This is only the beginning. Now let's return to where it all began. Emily Gates was only 8 years old, but already she moved like someone who had learned to carry pain in silence. Her home was a modern castle, 25 rooms, sparkling chandeliers, imported marble floors that clicked under the heels of strangers, gardens manicured within an inch of their lives, and a private lake that reflected everything, except joy. There were nannies, chefs, tutors, and guards, but no one saw Emily. No one listened, except the maid. Emily smiled less and less. She walked slowly, cautiously, as if every step hurt. She flinched when her hair brushed her shoulders. She avoided mirrors. She avoided voices. She avoided her father. Peter Gates wasn't a cruel man, but he was a shattered one. When his wife died, something inside him froze. He filled the silence with noise, business meetings, phone calls, screens. And in that noise, he lost the only thing left that really mattered. Emily became invisible, until the day LaToya Robbins stepped into the mansion. She wasn't just a maid. She was grounded, watchful, quiet in the way that pays attention. And on the third morning in her new job, while fluffing pillows and folding towels, she saw something. Something no one else dared to notice. It wasn't a bruise. It wasn't a tangle. It wasn't dirt or dandruff or disease. It was something far more disturbing. Something that whispered a terrifying question. Who did this to you? And from that moment on, nothing in the Gates mansion would ever be the same. The Gates mansion was the kind of place people dreamed of. Wide, sweeping staircases, golden light fixtures, walls filled with paintings no one looked at anymore. But behind the beauty, it was quiet, not peaceful, not still, just quiet. The kind of quiet that crept into your bones, the kind that made you whisper even when no one was listening. Emily sat alone at the far end of a long mahogany dining table, her feet swinging just above the floor. A silver bowl of oatmeal sat in front of her, untouched. Steam rose, then faded. At the other end of the room, a nanny scrolled through her phone, glancing up just long enough to say, "Eat, Emily. It's getting cold." Emily didn't answer. She just stared down into the bowl like it might swallow her whole. LaToya Robbins stood nearby, quietly wiping the countertop. Her eyes weren't on the sponge. They were on the little girl at the table. She'd seen children eat alone before, but never like this. No music, no laughter, no eye contact, just silence. LaToya walked over slowly and knelt beside Emily's chair. "Sweetheart, do you want me to warm it up?" Emily shook her head. Barely. Do you like cinnamon? Latoya asked gently. I could sprinkle some on top. Still nothing. Then a pause. A whisper. Cold's fine. Latoya smiled softly. Okay then. Cold it is. She reached up, almost instinctively, to brush a stray lock of blonde hair behind Emily's ear, but the girl flinched. Hard. Latoya froze, her hand still in the air. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to scare you. Emily looked down, her fingers nervously tugging at the collar of her dress. Latoya's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but concern. That dress had a high neckline. Same as yesterday. Same as the day before. Always buttoned to the top. She tucked the thought away. Later that afternoon, Latoya found Emily sitting by the window in the music room. Sunlight spilled across the floor, dancing across her tiny bare feet. You like the piano? Latoya asked. Emily gave a small nod. My grandma used to say music could carry prayers when your voice was too tired. Latoya chuckled. I always thought that was sweet. Emily turned her head slightly. Did it work? Latoya's smile softened. Sometimes. I think God listens more than we think. Emily looked down again, her voice barely a breath. I tried praying once, but I think God's too busy. Latoya felt something twist in her chest. She sat beside the child, not saying anything for a moment. Then, quietly, He's never too busy for you, Emily. Never. For the first time, Emily looked directly at her. Eyes wide, haunted, hopeful. And that's when Latoya saw it, just for a second. A shadow on Emily's neck, just beneath the collar. Dark, faint, hidden. But there, a whisper of a bruise. Latoya's heart pounded. Her hands clenched in her lap. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And someone in this house didn't want it seen. Emily never ran, never skipped, never even reached for anything quickly. Latoya noticed it the third morning. The little girl walked like someone older, like someone guarding herself. She held her head stiff, as if every turn came with a price. Latoya watched quietly from the kitchen as Emily climbed onto a stool with slow, measured effort. No wiggling, no bouncing, just caution, like her body was made of glass. Latoya said nothing, but she was learning to see what others ignored. That morning, she made breakfast special. Heart-shaped pancakes, strawberry slices arranged like flower petals, and a little note on the napkin. You are loved. Emily blinked when she saw it. Her lips twitched upward, almost a smile. You made this? She asked, touching the edge of the pancake. I did, Latoya said. God made you special, so I thought your breakfast should know it too. Emily's eyes dropped. No one's ever made food like this for me. Latoya gently sat beside her. Well, they should have. Each day, Emily talked a little more, but her body spoke louder. She brushed her own hair with shaky hands, wincing with every pull. And always, she kept her hair falling forward, a blonde curtain shielding her face. Want me to help? Latoya offered once, reaching gently. Emily flinched again, pulled away. No, she whispered. I can do it. But her knuckles were white around the brush, and her breath hitched with each stroke. That night, the house was still, quiet in that hollow, echoing way Latoya had come to dread. Most of the staff had gone home. Mr. Gates hadn't returned from the city. Latoya was cleaning up in the hallway when she heard it. A soft sound like a whimper, then a voice so faint it was almost wind. It hurts, it hurts. Latoya froze. The sound was coming from upstairs. She climbed slowly, each step wrapped in prayer. Lord, guide me. Show me what I'm supposed to do. Emily's door was cracked open. Inside, the girl sat curled on the bed, knees to her chest, holding her head with both hands. Her hair fell forward like a veil, but LaToya could see her body trembling. Tears soaked the sleeves of her pajama top. Her lips moved in a rhythm that broke LaToya's heart. Hurts. LaToya stepped inside quietly. Emily, sweetheart. Emily jumped, startled. She wiped her face quickly, trying to sit up straight. I'm okay, she said too fast. But LaToya had already seen it. The way Emily cradled her scalp. The way she winced when the hair shifted. This wasn't grief. This wasn't just loneliness. This was pain. Real, physical, and hidden. LaToya knelt by the bed. Emily, I need to ask you something. Emily's eyes darted to the door. Her voice trembled. Please don't tell anyone. Baby, LaToya whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Are you hurt? Emily didn't speak. She just pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. I can't help if I don't know, LaToya said gently. Jesus sees it already, and he loves you too much to leave you in pain. Emily looked away, then softly, shakily. I can't show you. Not yet. LaToya reached out, not to touch, but to be near. Okay, but I'll be right here, whenever you're ready. Emily didn't answer, but she didn't cry alone that night either. LaToya had seen fear before. Real fear, but not like this. Not tucked into a child's shoulders. Not hidden behind strands of blonde hair. Each day, Emily seemed smaller. Not in size, but in spirit. Her smile, once fragile, was fading again. LaToya moved through the house, quietly now. Watching, listening, looking in places no one else thought to look. Peter Gates was always gone. Buried in meetings, lost in conference calls. His brief greetings to Emily were stiff, distracted. Be good, he'd mutter as he passed by, as if she were an employee, not his daughter. It wasn't cruelty. It was disconnection. A man still lost in the graveyard of his grief. But there was someone else in the house who wasn't grieving at all. Clarice. The old nanny moved like a ghost with keys, drifting in and out of rooms with pursed lips and tired eyes. She didn't like questions. I've raised 3 generations of this family, she snapped when LaToya tried to ask about Emily's routine. This one just wants attention. Always has. LaToya blinked. She's in pain, ma'am. Clarice scoffed. She's dramatic. Always complaining. I told Mr. Gates years ago, the more you baby her, the weaker she gets. LaToya clenched her jaw. Weakness wasn't what she saw in Emily. She saw a child fighting invisible battles, all by herself. Later that afternoon, LaToya passed by the hallway mirror and caught Emily tugging her collar higher again. It was the 3rd time that day. The fabric already rubbed raw against her neck, but she kept hiding. Sweetheart, LaToya said gently, kneeling beside her. What's hurting you? Emily froze. Her small body tensed. Her eyes darted to the hallway. Don't ask that. I'm not mad. I see you flinch. I see you move like you're scared to breathe. LaToya's voice broke. I don't want you hurting alone. Emily's lip trembled. Then the dam cracked. I can't show you, she whispered, voice shaking. If I do, you'll tell Daddy. I won't. He already lost Mommy. Emily rushed. And if he finds out what's wrong with me, he'll lose me too. I'll be too much. LaToya felt her own heart twist. Too much? That was a lie from the pit of hell. She placed her hand gently over Emily's, not to force, not to pressure, but to anchor. Listen to me, baby girl, she whispered, voice steady. There's nothing you could show me that would make you unlovable. Not to me, not to God, not even to your daddy. He just forgot how to see you. But that doesn't mean his love stopped. Emily looked away. Silent tears slipped down her cheeks. Latoya prayed silently, "Lord, please break this chain. Shine light on what's hiding in the dark. She's still yours. She's still worthy." But Emily only pulled her sleeves tighter and backed toward the stairs. "Please don't look," she begged again, her voice cracking. "Please don't tell." And then she was gone, vanishing around the corner like a whisper. Latoya stood frozen. She had seen bruises before, but now she had seen shame. And whatever was happening to that child, it wasn't just hurting her body. It was crushing her soul. It was quiet in Emily's room. Too quiet. Latoya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands resting in her lap. Emily stood by the window, her back turned, her hair a tangled veil down her back. The sunlight touched the golden strands, but Latoya had learned pain could hide in anything, even light. She had prayed all morning. "God, if this is the moment, give me courage. Give her peace. Let truth come without shame." "Emily," she said softly, "I can't help you unless you let me see." The little girl didn't move. A long silence passed. Then, quietly, like something breaking open, Emily's shoulders began to shake. Tears came before words. "I'm scared," she whispered. What if you look and don't want to help anymore?" Latoya's voice cracked. "There's nothing you could show me that would ever make me walk away." Another pause. Then, slowly, Emily turned. She didn't meet Latoya's eyes. She just raised her trembling hands and lifted her hair. Latoya's breath caught in her throat. It was worse than she imagined. Clusters of hardened skin clung to Emily's scalp. Red, angry bumps pulsed across swollen patches. Dried blood crusted along her neckline, where the skin had cracked open. And worse, moving, writhing in plain sight worms. Dozens of them, alive, burrowed into her skin, crawling through wounds no child should bear. Latoya gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth, but she didn't pull back. She didn't scream. She leaned forward and opened her arms. Emily dropped the hair, covered her face, and crumpled into Latoya's chest. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm sorry. Am I disgusting? Am I gross?" Latoya wept. Tears spilled down her face as she held the shaking girl close. "No, baby. No." She cradled Emily like something sacred. "You've just needed help. That's all. And I'm here now. I promise. I'm not going anywhere." Emily clung tighter. "I didn't know what it was. It just started itching, and then hurting, and then—" her words dissolved into sobs. "I thought it was my fault." Latoya kissed the top of her head, holding her steady. "None of this is your fault. None of it." She rocked her gently, whispering prayers over her. "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." Psalm 147, verse 3. A storm was coming. Latoya knew that. Doctors, questions, explanations. The pain would have to be treated, the truth pulled into the light. But right now, all that mattered was the child in her arms. Emily had been suffering in silence for months, maybe longer, and no one, not her father, not the staff, not even the world that claimed to protect children, had seen it. But God had, and now so had she. Latoya whispered again, as her tears soaked into Emily's hair. "You're not disgusting, sweetheart. You're hurting, and Jesus loves hurting people." Emily didn't speak, but her grip on Latoya's sure didn't loosen. She had been carrying a secret of suffering, and finally, she wasn't carrying it alone. Peter Gates was buried in spreadsheets. 2 monitors glowed in the darkened office, casting pale light on his tired face. His tie was loose, eyes red-rimmed from staring at numbers that didn't matter anymore. He didn't hear Latoya enter. She didn't knock. "Mr. Gates," she said, her voice low but firm. "We need to talk about Emily." "Now." Peter looked up, Startled, Latoya had never raised her voice, never interrupted his meetings, never challenged his distance. I'm in the middle of... She's in pain, Latoya cut in, and not the kind you can ignore anymore. Peter blinked. What are you talking about? She trusted me. She showed me what's been hiding under all that hair. You need to see it too. He sighed, rubbing his temples. If it's medical, I'll have someone. No, Latoya said, stepping closer. You need to see it. The walk upstairs was silent. Peter followed like a man in a fog, confused but curious, still too detached to imagine the truth waiting for him behind his daughter's door. When they reached the room, Emily was sitting on the bed, knees tucked beneath her. She looked up. Her eyes widened when she saw her father. It's okay, Latoya whispered. You're safe. He needs to see, sweet girl. Emily's fingers trembled, but slowly she turned around, and she lifted her hair. Peter's body jerked like someone punched him. Clusters of sores, infected patches, live worms squirming in tender skin. Blood dried along her neckline, as if no one had ever thought to look there. Peter stumbled back a step. His knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the floor. Sobs tore from his chest, violent, raw, guttural. Oh my God, he whispered, hands shaking. Emily, baby, what is this? How did this happen? Emily turned toward him. Her voice was soft, fragile. I didn't want to bother you, she said. You're always sad. Peter broke. His body folded in on itself. He reached for her, but stopped mid-motion, as if afraid his hands didn't deserve to touch her. I'm so sorry, he wept. I didn't know. I didn't see. I should have seen. Latoya stepped in, her voice like a steel thread woven through compassion. Sir, this has been going on for months, maybe longer. We need a doctor. Now. This isn't emotional. It's physical. It's advanced. And it could get worse. Peter nodded, gasping through tears. Yes, I'll call someone. I'll call the best. Anything. But Latoya didn't back down. And you need to be present. No more hiding behind meetings. No more disappearing into sadness. She's been living in a nightmare. Peter looked at Emily again. I thought I lost her when her mother died. Latoya's voice softened. You still have her, but she needs you to show up. Emily stared at him, not angry, not even pleading, just waiting. And for the first time in years, Peter saw his daughter, not as a responsibility, but as a child, wounded, brave, desperate to be held. He crawled toward her on his knees. I'm here now, he whispered through broken sobs. I'm here. Emily leaned forward and buried her face in his chest. And in that shattered moment, healing began to bloom, quiet and unseen, like a mustard seed beneath soil. The salon was quiet when they entered. It was just after midnight. A soft hum of dryers filled the air, and the scent of lavender and shampoo clung to the walls. Latoya had called ahead, speaking in hushed urgency. They were waiting. Emily held Latoya's hand tightly, her fingers cold and small. Peter walked behind them, his steps unsure, like every movement had to be earned now. A young stylist with kind eyes greeted them at the door. Hi, sweetheart, she said to Emily. I'm Jenna. We're going to take good care of you tonight, okay? Emily nodded faintly. She was brave, but her hands trembled. They led her to the big leather chair. Latoya crouched beside her. I'll be right here the whole time. Peter stood a few feet away, arms crossed tightly across his chest, trying to breathe through the guilt pressing down like cement. Jenna lifted a section of Emily's hair and froze. Her mouth fell open. She dropped the scissors. They hit the tile floor with a sharp, metallic clatter. Oh my God, Jenna whispered. Behind her, another stylist covered her mouth in horror. Peter took one look and stumbled backward. His hands flew to his head. His face turned white. His knees almost gave out again. It looked worse under the salon lights. The worms were still moving. The clusters had hardened into open wounds. Her scalp was inflamed, raw, and bleeding in places. It wasn't just matted hair. It was a battlefield. And this little girl had been fighting it alone. Jenna backed away, tears in her eyes. I don't know what to do. Latoya stood. She took off her jacket, rolled up her sleeves, walked over to the tray of tools. I do. Everyone looked at her. Peter blinked. You, cosmetology license, she said, already slipping on gloves. Got it before I started cleaning houses. She turned to Emily and knelt in front of her. We're going to take it slow, baby, she whispered. Okay, just breathe with me. Emily nodded. For the next 4 hours, Latoya worked. She cut gently, section by section. She whispered scriptures. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Isaiah 43 verse 2. She detangled with fingers as careful as prayer. She cleaned each wound with soothing oil, humming hymns under her breath. Peter sat nearby, silent, watching his daughter, watching the woman who had saved her. Emily whimpered at times, but she never told Latoya to stop. And when she cried, Latoya wiped the tears and said, You're safe now. You're not alone anymore. By 4 a.m., the last cluster was gone. The worms were dead. The wounds were dressed. And Emily's hair, shorter now, but clean and light, rested gently on her shoulders. She touched it with cautious fingers, then looked at Latoya. Thank you, she whispered. Latoya smiled through tears. You're beautiful, Emily. God never stops seeing that. And now, the world will see it too. Peter stood, eyes wet, voice shaking. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, Latoya said. Just don't disappear again. He nodded, heart aching, because this wasn't just a makeover. It was resurrection. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines and the rhythmic tick of the wall clock. Emily lay still in the bed, her head gently bandaged, her little hand wrapped in Latoya's. Peter sat across from them, eyes hollow, body still. He hadn't left the hospital since they arrived. The doctor had confirmed everything Latoya feared. Severe scalp trauma, chronic infection, signs of untreated inflammation going back months, maybe longer. And worst of all, the pain wasn't just physical. Peter had barely breathed as the diagnosis came down. Your daughter has been living with agony most adults couldn't handle, the doctor said, gently but firmly. Her system is exhausted. Her body has been in survival mode. This didn't happen overnight. Peter nodded, silent, shattered. An hour later, he fired Clarice. No warnings, no farewells, just a tight, firm voice. You're done here. She tried to defend herself, said Emily was fragile, sensitive, dramatic. But Peter didn't listen. For once, he heard his daughter louder than anyone else. He cleared his schedule for 2 weeks, canceled meetings, walked away from deals. His entire empire could wait. Emily could not. At the hospital, Peter knelt beside her bed, again and again, whispering apologies like prayers. I'm sorry. I didn't see. I didn't listen. You needed me, and I disappeared. Emily didn't say much at first, but she held his hand. And for Peter, that was mercy he didn't deserve. Latoya stayed too. She brought snacks, read stories aloud, braided the soft strands of Emily's recovering hair. She hummed worship songs at night and sat by her side during the blood work and bandage changes. She became the constant, the safe voice, the light in the hallway. One evening, while Peter was in the waiting room on a call, Emily looked up from her coloring book. Latoya, yes, baby. Do you think God forgot about me? Latoya set down her coffee. Move closer. No, sweetheart. I think he cried with you. I think he sent me because he knew you needed someone to see what others didn't. Emily blinked. Did he send you just for me? Latoya nodded, emotion rising in her throat. Yes, baby. He always comes for the one who's hurting. That night, Emily smiled in her sleep. 2 days later, she asked for pancakes. 3 days after that, she laughed for the first time in months. Peter started therapy that same week. The hospital had recommended it, for him and for Emily. He went willingly, sat in the small office with the stiff couch, and said things he'd never said aloud. How do you forgive yourself for vanishing? How do you rebuild something you let break? Each session cracked something open, and as Peter worked on himself, Emily began to lean on him more, rest her head on his shoulder, ask him to stay longer, smile when he entered the room. He read her bedtime stories now, held her hand during checkups, and one morning, while brushing her soft, healing hair, he whispered, I missed so much of your pain, but I promise I won't miss the healing. She smiled, small, but real. Autumn came gently to the Gates estate. Leaves blushed red and gold, dancing across the stone paths as if the world itself had exhaled. Emily stood at the gate in a brand-new backpack, her lunchbox swinging at her side. She was smiling, a real smile. Latoya took a photo from the driveway, misty-eyed. Peter stood beside her, hands shaking just slightly as he waved. Have the best day, sweetheart, he called. Emily grinned. I will. And for the first time in years, she meant it. The school welcomed her like a breath of fresh air. Her teachers were kind. Her classmates laughed with her, not at her. She drew pictures again. She sang during art class. She raised her hand. By the second week, she came home with a new friend and a painted rock that said, You are loved. Her hair grew in soft and golden. Her scalp, now fully healed, no longer flinched under touch. She wore her favorite headbands with pride. And every evening, after homework and dinner, Peter brought out the soft bristle brush and sat behind her on the couch. It had become their ritual, a gentle act of rebuilding. He ran the brush slowly through her hair, pausing when she asked, smiling when she giggled. It had once been the place of her greatest pain. Now it was where healing lived. One night, as he finished brushing, Emily looked over her shoulder. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of innocence and knowing. Daddy, yeah, baby. I'm glad Latoya came. She saved me. Peter swallowed hard. His throat tightened. Words caught somewhere between gratitude and guilt. He set down the brush and pulled her into his arms, then looked up at Latoya, standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, eyes full of quiet love. No, Peter said softly. She didn't just save you. He reached out his hand toward Latoya. She saved us. Latoya stepped forward and wrapped them both in her arms. There were no tears this time, only peace. That night, after Emily had fallen asleep, Peter and Latoya stood outside on the back porch, watching the stars rise above the lake. She's so different now, he said. She's becoming who she always was. Latoya replied. Peter nodded, his voice low. I missed it all. I let my pain blind me to hers. Latoya rested a hand on his shoulder. But you see her now. That's what matters. God redeems what we surrender. He closed his eyes. I'm not the man I used to be. Good, Latoya said. Neither is she. Inside, Emily slept with peace on her face and a worship song playing softly in the background. The wounds had healed, not just on her scalp, but in her soul. And as her breathing slowed, as stars scattered across the night sky, one truth settled over that house like grace. Sometimes a child's quiet suffering hides the deepest wounds. But sometimes one brave person, willing to listen, to see, to stay, can rewrite a family's entire story.
If this chapter touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that healing is possible and that no one should suffer in silence. Be sure to like the video to help others find this story, and subscribe so you never miss a chapter, because the journey isn't over yet, and what comes next will change everything.